awesome it was with you guys. So just to tell you a little bit about everything that I did. So Thursday morning, I got the kids up bright and early. Anthony came into the city with me and I had my bag all packed and ready. And Anthony took the car and I dropped the kids off, and then I went to the airport. So it was really weird being at the airport because, well, one, I haven't been there in a while, and two, this is like the last major thing and the last major time I'll be on a plane before I head back home. So it was like really weird, and it was just weird thinking that the next time I get on a plane will be back to the United States and back home. So it was kind of surreal and really cool to get a chance to be in the airport, and it reminded me of just how close I am to finishing up my time here in Australia, which is sad, but at the same time super exciting to be going back home. So I arrived at the airport, got checked in, went through customs, finished my book finally, and just hung out, and then we got on the plane and I flew Virgin Australia to Queenstown. And what an amazing view coming into Queenstown, because you see all these mountain ranges and it's so hilly and gorgeous, and it's such a spectacular view. It's nothing like flying into Minneapolis back home. So once I got to Queenstown, made my way to the hostel because it was kind of like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. so I could check in. Checked in, dropped my bag off, and kind of freshened up a little bit, changed into some different clothes, and then I explored the town a little bit. Now, Queenstown is such a touristy type area that there's people everywhere. So it's very busy, even though it's like not really the touristy season right now. But I love this city, and I don't really want to call it a city. I love the town. It's situated right on a lake, so it's just absolutely spectacular views, and it's just amazing. So I just kind of walked around the beach area, and then walked around their like garden area, and basically that's all I did there. And explored, found different little cafes and different restaurants that I could possibly try while I'm there. Made a booking, which I'll talk about in a second, for the next day. It's pretty exciting of what I have planned, but I made a pretty big booking, and then I got some gelato and sat on the beach and watched the sunset, which was absolutely amazing. So the booking that I made was to go skydiving. So if any of you have heard of Queenstown before, you'll know that it's the adrenaline capital of the world. So essentially, like, there's all these adrenaline things of like jumping off of bridges and skydiving and all of these other things. And I decided, hey, why not do one thing? So I signed up to go skydiving. So bright and early Saturday morning or Friday morning, I got up and got the bus to take me out to Wanaka, which is about an hour and a half from Queenstown. And I was the only person on the bus, so of course I'm sitting there like all super nervous. But the bus driver was super nice and very talkative, so he was keeping me calm. And so I got over to Skydive Wanaka and signed some paperwork, bought a photo package, and next thing I knew, they were putting me on a plane. But they brought us into this room and watched this briefing video, which was only about like 5 minutes of, okay, here's the position, here's what's going to happen, this is how we're going to land. Basically like 5 minutes of that. And then they brought us into the other room where we got suited up and put our harnesses on, got all strapped in, put our little hats on, and we were walking towards the plane, which was pretty terrifying, to be completely honest. I have no clue how on earth I even like got the courage to do this. So we walk over to the plane, and then we get in and get ready, and the plane takes off. There were like 7 of us sitting in this plane, all strapped to our instructors just sitting there like, okay. I would say we're all pretty nervous, but so I had signed up for the 12,000 feet skydive because I'm like, we don't need to pay, $60 more just to go 3,000 feet higher. But these girls, they jumped out at 9,000 feet, which I felt was a little too low personally, but they jumped at 9,000 and they decided that they didn't really want to stop at 12, so they got all the way up to 15,000 for me. And we jumped, essentially. So I got a free upgrade, which was pretty cool. But once I saw them like jump out at 9,000 feet, I was so nervous. There was no way you were going to get me out of that plane. But at the same point, like, the only way down was through the plane, jumping out of it. So we got to 15,000 feet, and he's like, okay, it's our turn. And, like, we start scooting towards the exit, and I literally, like, froze up and had, like, no power whatsoever. So he obviously was doing most of the work. But once they get you to they open the door, it's freezing cold. Let me just tell you, I was freezing. They open the door, and you sit on the edge, and you tuck your feet underneath the plane, and you hold on to your straps, and you tilt your head back. It's called the banana, and it's like the only thing you're supposed to know how to do when you skydive. And so I did the banana, and next thing I know, we were hurled out of an airplane, plummeting towards the earth. So here I am skydiving. What the heck? How in the world? So the first 10 seconds, I had my eyes closed because I was terrified. Like, you feel your stomach just kind of wrench. And I had my eyes closed, and I think I screamed. And then once I opened them and realized, like, everything was totally fine, then I really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun, actually. I was terrified of free fall and thought I would hate it. But honestly, free fall was probably my favorite part because it's such a cool experience. It's like in a wind tunnel, essentially. But it was really cool. I actually enjoyed it. So then about 60 seconds later, he pulled the cord and our parachute came out, and it kind of like jerks you a little bit. And that's when you just kind of catch your breath and your brain starts to catch back up to you, and you realize how high up you actually are. But it only takes about 5 minutes to float back down from once your parachute is pulled. So we kind of just drifted this way and that, and he spun me a couple times, which I personally didn't like, but like part of the experience. So he spun the parachute a few times around, and we drifted this way and that, and he pointed out some things, whatnot, and it was really cool. And of course, at that point, I could realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm attached to a human this high up in the air. Like, how terrifying is this? Like I said, my brain caught up to me at that point. But then after drifting down, we got closer to the ground, and he's like, all right, legs up. And so all you have to do is put your legs up, and we slid into this really plush grass, and that was our landing. Right on the ground. I barely even felt the thing. So it was exhilarating. I have no clue how I did it, and to this, like, literally I'm surprised that I even got myself out of that plane. So, highly recommend doing it. It was actually really cool and not as scary as I thought it was going to be. So, definitely recommend. And then once we landed, it was just a matter of getting our normal clothes on, and then it was an hour and a half back to Queenstown in the car, and of course you're kind of pumped up from the adrenaline, so I was pretty talkative on the way home. But once we got back to Queenstown, I got some lunch and had a beer because I can't believe I just jumped out of an airplane. And then I was pretty tired from just the adrenaline high running off. And so I went and took a nap. And then after waking up from my nap, I took a nice hike. So there's this hill right by Queenstown that you can take this gondola and ride it all the way to the tippy top. Which, personally, I didn't want to pay $70 for a gondola ride. So I did the hour trek up the hill. So it was kind of a steep hike at first, but otherwise it just zigzagged back and forth. So it wasn't too bad, but definitely got a nice workout in, and I was sore the next day. But I did that and got to see some really pretty views of the city, and it was pretty cool to see. Saw some goats up there, which made me super, super happy. And then went to bed, and then the next day was a day trip to Milford Sound. So this is like in the fjords of New Zealand, which I know my mom had always wanted to see, so I had to make it a point to go and see it, and boy, am I glad that I did. So I got on this bus early in the morning, and a big coach bus with a bunch of random people, and we made a trek to Milford Sound. So from Queenstown, Milford Sound is only about 40 miles as the crow flies. But because there's a bunch of mountain ranges, we ended up having to go like a 300-mile drive to get around the mountains and go back up kind of thing. So we had to go south to go north, basically. But a beautiful scenic drive, wonderful mountain ranges and hills. And then once we get into Fiordland National Park, oh my god, we saw these amazing hills and valleys and this amazing river from the glaciers, and it was just absolutely stunning. Our coach bus had a glass ceiling, so we were able to kind of see above while we were sitting, and our bus driver was amazing. This was like his 840th trip going to Milford Sound, so like he knew his stuff, and it was just amazing. So one thing that was actually really cool about Milford Sound is that the only way to access it is by taking a tour of some sort and going by coach bus. About a month ago here in Sydney, we had those torrential rains. Well, so did New Zealand, and it really did some damage here in Fiordland because of just like the sloping of the mountains and a lot of erosion, and actually wiped out some of the roads. So the best way to fix it is only by going by convoy system at certain points in the day, so that people can still fix the roads and not be interrupted by thousands of tourist cars. So we drove through the mountains, we saw lots of avalanche leftovers, saw some glaciers, which was super cool to finally see. And then we got to Milford Sound, and then we got on this bus. So we got to Milford Sound, and then we got on a boat that would take us out to the Tasman Sea. So we got on that, and it was about an hour and a half boat ride. Saw some fur seals, which was really cool, some other waterfalls. Actually, we saw on the rock where the tectonic plates rub, so obviously not like this, but you can see the crack where the plates actually are, that's pretty cool. And then towards the end of our boat trip, he took us under this glacier waterfall, and of course I had to get wet. But we got to go underneath that, and it was so cold, but it was so pretty. And honestly, this area is so gorgeous. Like, I can't even talk about it because like words don't describe how beautiful it is. And it's just so pretty there. And so after the boat trip, then we got back on the coach bus and made like the 4.5-hour trek back to Queenstown. On the way, we stopped at a glacier spring and actually filled up all our water bottles, which was pretty cool and pretty exciting. And then we got back to Queenstown that night, so nothing too exciting then happened in Queenstown, but it was pretty awesome to get to see the fjords and see the area. Definitely nothing like you see in Wisconsin. Like, there's no way Wisconsin would ever have anything that magnificent. And then the next day was rather rainy, which was my last day in Queenstown. Didn't really have any plans because a lot of the things you have to do are super expensive, and like I don't know, I did my skydiving, like that was my major thing I wanted to do, and I just kind of walked around a little bit, got on the bus, and went to a small mining town called Arrowtown, just about 40 minutes away from there. Another touristy trapped area, full of souvenirs and bakeries and things. So just went there and came back to Queenstown, grabbed my luggage, and went to the airport and just hung out there and watched Netflix because, I mean, if you wanted to spend $200 plus, you easily could have, but like, I was good. I enjoyed my one major experience, so I was okay with heading back to Sydney, and so now I'm back here in Sydney, rocking another week, only about 4 more to go, 5 more to go, so sooner or later I'll be back home in Wisconsin, and looking back at my skydive experience in Queenstown. So thanks for listening in on my exciting Queenstown adventure.